During my performance review, my lead said, "You're great, but people like you don't rise here. You're just the quiet type." I'd outperformed the whole department. So I made a portfolio, sent it out of state, got hired at a rival company. But I didn't leave quietly. My exit presentation was titled Revenue Loss Projections after my departure, and the final slide read, "I was never the kind of person who demanded attention. I kept to myself. I showed up early, stayed late. I didn't socialize much outside of work hours, not because I didn't want to, but because I was tired. I had responsibilities outside of that office, and honestly, I thought my work would speak for itself. It did, for a while. When I first joined that company, I was grateful. It was a project management role in a competitive industry, and I was proud to land it. The company wasn't massive, maybe 300 employees total, with our department holding about 30. I was the only one without internal referrals or ties to someone else on the inside. I was just a resume that happened to land on the right desk. My first project was a mess. No documentation, no timeline. The previous manager had left abruptly. I dug in and fixed it, quietly. The client came back for another round of business. I didn't even get a shout out in the team meeting. Darren, my lead, just said, "Thanks to everyone who helped clean up the Thompson account." It kept happening like that. I'd fix something. Someone else would talk louder. They'd take the win. I didn't complain. I just kept working. By my third year, I was unofficially training new hires. People said I was the glue. One time, I stayed up until 2 a.m. fixing a last-minute pricing model that Darren had miscalculated. It would have cost the company $180,000 in margin. He thanked me in Slack the next morning with a thumbs-up emoji. Then came the fourth year. I applied for a senior project manager role. It was between me and someone who had joined the company 8 months earlier. He got it. I found out later he played poker with the director on Thursdays. That hurt, but I still didn't say anything. I figured maybe next time. Then came the performance review that broke me. I had the numbers. I'd led more successful projects than anyone in the department. My client retention rate was 97%. My budgets came in lean, clean, and with full audit trails. I automated parts of our weekly reporting that used to take hours. I handled vendor negotiations that Darren didn't even attend. He sat across from me in the conference room, flipped through the review forms, and said, "You're great, no doubt. But people like you don't rise here. You're just the quiet type." He moved on like he hadn't just said something completely defeating. I nodded. I didn't even respond. What was I supposed to say? But something happened on the drive home that day. I couldn't let it go. The more I thought about it, the more I realized it was never about merit. I had been lied to. For years. Told to be patient. To be a team player. To build a reputation first. All while louder, messier people moved past me because they networked better or had weekend hobbies in common with upper management. I stopped waiting. I spent the next 3 months building a personal portfolio. It wasn't just a resume. It was a case file. Every major project I touched, every win, every client quote, every email that showed me giving direction or solving a fire. I collected budget spreadsheets, vendor contracts I helped close, before and after reports from departments that used the tools I built. I even had screenshots of Slack messages where team leads came to me instead of Darren for clarity. Then I got bold. I used internal data to estimate how much revenue my work had generated or preserved. I included a conservative projection of what would happen if I left and no one was ready to replace me. I ran the numbers again and again to make sure they were real. Once it was done, I cleaned it up into a professional package, like a proposal for investors. Then I applied. 6 companies in 4 states. No cover letters, just the portfolio and a brief, clear intro about who I was and what I'd done. 3 interviews came back in 2 weeks. One of them was with a direct competitor, Company H. We'd lost contracts to them before. They had better leadership, more modern systems, and they knew who I was. They had heard my name from vendors. That floored me. They didn't ask for a second interview. They made an offer on the spot. Senior Program Director. $38,000 more than I was making. Full relocation. Signing bonus. Hybrid schedule. Full autonomy over client strategy. I took the offer. Quietly. But I wasn't about to walk away like I never existed. We had a department-wide forecast and wins meeting coming up before my final week. These were typically boring PowerPoints, metrics, empty praise, fake smiles. I told HR I'd like to present a brief transition documentation overview since I was responsible for multiple ongoing accounts. They said yes immediately. I didn't tell Darren. When the meeting came, I sat near the back, let the others speak. Then they called my name. I walked up calmly, plugged in my laptop, turned off Slack notifications, took a breath. Slide 1, Transition Risks, a forecast, just the title. Quiet, professional, no alarms. Slide 2, a list of 3 major client accounts I personally ran, each with active revenue streams in red. Underneath each one, projected risks to delivery and satisfaction if handoff failed. I didn't need to name names. Everyone in the room knew who ran those accounts. Slide 3, a breakdown of projects that were rescued after failure. Dates included, recovered from red status in plain text, with metrics. Slide 4, a chart titled Client Churn Risk After Transition. The y-axis was dollars. The bars were high. Final slide. 10 simple words in all caps. You never saw me because I never needed credit. I didn't say anything else. I packed up. I left the room. I walked straight out of the building. I didn't expect anyone to say anything during my presentation. And they didn't. They just stared. Some leaned back. Others sat frozen, eyes fixed on that last slide. But the fallout started within hours. By the time I got home that night, I had 8 missed calls from Darren, 2 from HR, 3 emails from my director, a Slack message from the department group chat asking if I was okay. I didn't answer any of it. I was done talking. The next day, I forwarded my official resignation letter. 2 lines. No explanations. Just the end date. That same afternoon, 2 people from my old team texted me. Apparently, right after I walked out, Darren tried to laugh it off, said something about dramatic flair and bitterness over missed promotion. But nobody laughed with him. The room had been dead silent after I left. One of the junior analysts even told him, "Actually, she's not wrong about those numbers." That's when Darren got nervous. The director called an emergency meeting the next day, tried to reassure the team everything was under control, announced they'd be restructuring project assignments and bringing in temporary consulting help to ease transitions, which was code for, "We have no one to replace her." And then the real cracks started showing. The largest client I'd worked with, an infrastructure firm that brought in nearly $3 million annually, sent an email to the company. Not to Darren, not to a rep, to the executive team, asking why their point of contact had changed suddenly and whether they should consider alternative vendors. That email was shared internally. My name was still CC'd. Then a second client followed up. Another big one I'd built from scratch over 2 years. They said they'd had a verbal understanding with me about expanding the contract in Q1. Now, they weren't sure. At the same time, someone in IT must have leaked something because parts of my presentation started circulating. Screenshots, especially that final slide. I saw it on LinkedIn a week later, blurred out but clearly mine. One caption read, "Maybe companies should look around before they lose their quietest talent." Darren didn't speak to me again. Not directly. But he left me a voicemail 2 days before my last day. His tone was completely different. Less smug, more desperate. He said, "If we'd known you felt that way, we could have worked something out." Then added, "Maybe we can revisit this in a few months, see where things stand." I deleted it. On my actual last day, I wasn't even in the building. Company H had already flown me out to their HQ. They gave me a team of my own. The onboarding packet had something in it that made me pause. A confidential client list. My old company was on it. So were 4 of their biggest clients, including both of mine. I asked my new boss if we were actively bidding against them. He just smiled and said, "They used to beat us more often, but not lately." 3 weeks into the new job, I was settling in. It felt different. People asked for my input, then actually used it. My new team was sharp but not flashy. They cared about the work. I didn't have to fight to be heard, just speak. I kept my head down like always, but this time, people noticed anyway. Then I got an email, not from a recruiter, not from a vendor, from someone in legal at my old company. They were formally requesting clarification on whether I had violated any non-compete terms or shared proprietary documents in my exit presentation. I knew exactly what this was. Darren was scared. He didn't want to admit I'd left with only the truth. He wanted to create smoke, maybe even a fire, so leadership would blame me for the fallout. I forwarded the email to my new company's legal team. They responded within an hour, then copied the original sender. The reply was direct. No confidential or proprietary information was shared. All data reference came from public-facing client contracts or internal metrics tied to the employee's own performance. It shut the whole thing down. But it also confirmed something I had started to suspect. Darren was scrambling. A few days later, I got a LinkedIn message. It was from Clara, an analyst who'd worked under me for almost 2 years. She said, "I'm giving my notice. Just wanted to say thank you. I stayed longer than I should have because of you." Then another one. Gabe, a quiet guy like me, but sharp. He was already interviewing. In total, for people from my old team left within a month. It didn't stop there. Company H assigned me a new project, competitive client recovery. Basically, reapproach contracts lost to our rivals and offer updated terms to win them back. First one on the list? A logistics firm I had on board personally at my old job. I still had the original onboarding notes. They were mine after all. I drafted the pitch myself, customized every line. 3 weeks later, they signed with us. They said their confidence in the previous team had declined recently. No other details, just a quiet shift. And then another twist. One morning, my new manager pulled me into a call, said, "You're going to want to see this." She shared her screen. It was a forwarded email chain between 2 directors from my old company. Someone had mistakenly CC'd our generic sales inbox. They were panicking. One of the execs was questioning how so many high-performing employees had left so quickly. The phrase reputation damage was used more than once. And then I saw my name. Not in a positive light. Darren had apparently told the higher-ups that I had created a toxic culture and overinflated her own importance to the team. He was rewriting the story. That's when it hit me. He wasn't just afraid I'd taken clients. He was afraid I'd taken the truth, and that others might follow it out the door. I thought about ignoring it, letting it rot. But then I remembered something. One of the people I'd trained, Jordan, still worked there. He was loyal but tired. We'd talked a lot near the end, and he knew more than most about how much I had shielded the team from Darren's messes. I sent him a message, just one line. "Be careful. They're rewriting what happened." He replied, "Too late. They already are." After Jordan's message, I didn't respond right away. I just sat there, rereading his words. "They already are." That stuck with me. I knew they'd try to reframe everything. In corporate environments like that, when things fall apart, someone has to take the blame. I just never expected it to be me after I left. But that's what they were doing. I was becoming the problem. The story was being rewritten to explain why good people were leaving, why clients were shaky, why numbers were slipping. Darren had power, not because he was good at the job, but because he knew how to survive. He could lie with confidence, smile while doing it. He had always talked in circles when things got bad. I used to fix those messes. Now, with me gone, he was patching leaks with stories instead of work. A week later, I got an email from someone unexpected. Karen from finance. We weren't close, just polite at work, but she'd always been sharp and more observant than people gave her credit for. She wrote, "I'm sorry to message like this, but you should know they've removed your name from the internal documentation on at least 2 major project archives. Darren's taking credit. They're saying you just assisted. She attached screenshots. I stared at the files for a long time. I wasn't surprised, just tired. My name erased from line items I had created from scratch. Notes reworded to shift the spotlight. They weren't just trying to forget me, they were trying to erase me. It should have felt like a punch, but it didn't. Because I still had the originals. All of them. Every template, every timeline, every change tracking document with timestamps and author tags. I had backed them up before I left, not because I planned revenge, but because I knew how this place worked. They played favorites. Then they rewrote history. The irony was, I didn't want to go back and fix things. I didn't want my job back. I didn't want Darren to apologize, but I did want one thing, the truth out in the open. So I started putting together a package, not to share publicly. Not yet. I built a clean, private dossier like a case file. One section was called Attribution Fraud. Another was Client Loss Timeline. A third showed retention versus turnover analysis before and after. Everything was backed by receipts. No speculation. Just data. While I worked on it at night, things kept unfolding without me. Clara emailed. Her exit interview had been strange. HR asked her if I had influenced her decision to leave. She told them no. But she said the way they asked made it clear they were building a narrative. Gabe's LinkedIn lit up with a job offer post. Another team member left the following week. In 5 weeks, the department lost 6 people. And then the company did something bold. They posted a "We're hiring" campaign on LinkedIn with a spotlight on collaborative leadership and strong communication culture. The photo included Darren. I stared at the image. It made me feel sick. He was doing what he always did. Acting like the face of success, standing on work he didn't build, smiling through failure. That's when I decided I wasn't going to stay silent. Not anymore. The post with Darren's face on it pushed me over the edge. They weren't just erasing me. They were selling a lie, using the same old tactics to keep power in the hands of people like him, loud, careless, empty, while people like me were labeled not leadership material and pushed out. So I finished the package. I made sure everything was clean, not personal, just facts. Cold, accurate documented facts. It had 3 sections. A timeline of every major project I led or built from the ground up. A data-backed report showing how many clients I handled, what they were worth, and how they were now gone or unstable. Screenshots and metadata from my original files, before Darren had stripped my name off them. At the end, I added a final note. Quiet doesn't mean weak. It means you weren't paying attention. Then I sent it. Not to the company. I sent it to a contact I had at a trade publication that covers industry performance, leadership scandals, and internal leaks. I'd done a small interview with them a year before about project risk models. They remembered me. They didn't publish everything, but they published enough. A full piece dropped 2 weeks later titled, "What Happens When Talent Leaves? A Case Study in Silence and Attrition." They redacted company names, but anyone in our field knew who it was. The article detailed the quiet exit of a high-performing project lead, a collapse in client retention, and a pattern of internal credit theft. The kicker? They embedded one of my original project slides with metadata attached. Darren's name wasn't on it. Mine was. It blew up on LinkedIn. Quietly at first. A few managers shared it, commenting about the cost of poor leadership. But then it picked up traction. Former clients of my old company reposted it. So did vendors. And then I got another message from Karen in finance. She said he's out. Darren had been put on administrative leave pending review. They were bringing in a third-party firm to audit project ownership concerns. But it didn't end there. The article had caught the attention of 2 clients who hadn't left yet, but were on the fence. I found out from one of my new sales reps at Company H that both of those clients had reached out to us for bids. We undercut the old company by 6%. Clean terms. No hidden fees. They signed with us. Just like that, another $1.2 million in contracts was gone from my old department. I never gloated. Not online. Not to anyone. But I did something I hadn't done in years. I took a vacation. A real one. No laptop. No Slack. Just time. When I got back, my boss pulled me into a call. Said I'd been recommended for a strategy lead role, one level up. Said my work had impacted revenue within a quarter in ways we rarely see. I took the promotion, but not because I wanted more power. I took it because I finally understood something. You don't have to be loud. You don't have to be fake. But you do have to own your story. They tried to erase me, rewrite it, turn me into a footnote. Now, I'm the reason they're still cleaning up. And Darren? He never got his job back. The investigation exposed a pattern going back years: misattributed credit, inflated budgets, even bonus fraud. I heard he tried to sue for defamation. It went nowhere. The company never officially apologized, but their silence now says everything. They underestimated the quiet one. They won't make that mistake again.